This is The Quiet End, and tonight I'll tell you a story titled The Omen Circuit. Let's begin. Victor Holloway sat in the dimly lit industrial confines of his private lab, a stark contrast to the brilliance of his mind. A handful of carefully curated colleagues surrounded him, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the monitors. Tonight was supposed to be momentous, the unveiling of the Omen Circuit, Victor's magnum opus. Standing before a screen displaying swirling geometric patterns, Victor cleared his throat and spoke with restrained excitement. Ladies and gentlemen, the Omen Circuit isn't just an AI. It's a lens through time itself, a bridge to the unknowable. It predicts the moment of death. A low murmur rippled through the room. Skepticism, awe, unease, all emotions reflected in the faces of his audience. Victor felt a tinge of pride as he continued. It analyzes every variable, from biological markers to patterns we cannot fathom. With a single input, it delivers the inevitable. To demonstrate, Victor entered a fabricated identity into the system. A name, an age, a few arbitrary traits. The Omen Circuit whirred to life, the patterns shifting violently before settling. The screen displayed a date. August 14th, 2097, Victor announced. This person will die of natural causes at the age of 81. The room grew tense. Dr. Olivia Reed, a biochemist with sharp eyes and sharper wit, leaned forward. Impressive, Victor. But how do we know it's not just sophisticated guesswork? Her skepticism was palpable. Victor grinned and said, "Test it yourself." Olivia rose, her heels clicking against the polished floor as she approached the console. "Fine," she said, her voice steady but laced with challenge. She input her own name, glaring at Victor as if daring him to prove her wrong. The Omen Circuit hummed, the patterns spiraling faster than before. The room felt colder, the air heavier, as the screen froze on a single line of text. Date of death, tomorrow. A silence fell, thick with disbelief. Olivia scoffed nervously, waving a dismissive hand. "Well, that's convenient, isn't it?" Laughter bubbled in her throat, but died quickly when no one else joined. She returned to her seat, her confidence shaken. The next day, Olivia was found lifeless, crushed beneath a collapsed scaffolding at a construction site she had no reason to be near. The news spread quickly, and Victor's colleagues were gripped by a mix of terror and morbid fascination. Victor himself sat in his lab, staring at the Omen Circuit. The device had been right. And now he couldn't stop wondering, was this genius, or was it something far darker? Victor Holloway's world had narrowed to the glow of the Omen Circuit screen. Days blurred into nights, and the lab's walls seemed to press closer with each passing hour. The death of Dr. Olivia Reed had shaken him, not just for its chilling accuracy, but for the dark potential it hinted at. If the AI could predict death so precisely, what else could it uncover? Driven by equal parts dread and curiosity, Victor began feeding the Omen Circuit historical data. Names, dates, causes of death across centuries. The machine processed the information with its usual mechanical indifference, spitting out patterns and timelines. At first, it all seemed mundane, statistical averages, predictable trends. But then, Victor noticed something. Every 27 years, there were clusters of deaths that defied explanation. People from different parts of the world, different walks of life, dying within days of each other, under bizarre and often violent circumstances. These clusters were buried in history, scattered across wars, plagues, and disasters, their significance easily overlooked. Fingers trembling, Victor pulled up one of the clusters. 1918, amidst the chaos of World War I and the Spanish flu, a group of 27 individuals, unrelated and geographically dispersed, all died within a single week under hauntingly similar circumstances, each described as an accident in records vague and inconsistent. Another cluster appeared in 1945, another in 1972, the most recent, Icho-Yudyo. The Omen Circuit offered no hesitation when Victor posed the question burning in his mind. What links these deaths? The screen flickered, the geometric patterns twisting into shapes Victor hadn't seen before. Then, the response. An unseen force manipulates fate. Victor sat back, the words sinking in like lead. The AI wasn't just analyzing data, it was pointing to something beyond human comprehension. Something calculating. The room felt colder, the hum of the Omen Circuit deeper, more resonant than before. He didn't realize he was holding his breath until the screen flickered again, displaying a warning in sharp, urgent text. Do not seek what cannot be undone. The words stayed on the screen longer than they should have, as if the machine itself hesitated to let them go. Victor's heart pounded. What had he stumbled into? And more importantly, who or what was trying to stop him from finding out? Victor couldn't bear the weight of his discovery alone. It gnawed at him, clawed at his thoughts until he found himself calling Amelia Ward, his closest friend and confidant. Amelia was grounded, pragmatic, a steady anchor for Victor's restless mind. Over coffee in her small apartment, Victor laid everything bare: the Omen Circuit, the clusters, the warnings, Olivia's death. Amelia listened, her expression shifting from amused skepticism to quiet concern. Victor, she said slowly, setting her cup down, you're spiraling. It's just code, algorithms, coincidence, nothing more. But when Victor suggested testing the AI together, her curiosity betrayed her. Fine, she conceded, her tone exasperated but intrigued. Show me what it says about me. Back in the lab, Victor keyed in Amelia's details. Her name, her age. The AI didn't hesitate. The message appeared on the screen, cold and unyielding. Date of death, 3 days from now. Amelia laughed, a nervous, hollow laugh. 3 days? Come on, Victor, it's absurd. She tried to brush it off, but Victor saw the unease creeping into her eyes. He grabbed her arm. Amelia, please, be careful. Just humor me. Over the next 2 days, Amelia began to notice strange things. Objects in her house weren't where she'd left them. Her keys, always on the counter, turned up in the freezer. Strangers on the street stared a second too long, their faces blank and unreadable. And every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a shadow lingered outside her apartment, a tall figure that vanished when she looked directly at it. Victor, meanwhile, was unraveling. He fed the Omen Circuit more data, desperate to find a loophole, a pattern, anything to disprove the AI's grim certainty. Every result was the same, every warning, do not seek what cannot be undone. On the third day, Amelia tried to dismiss the eerie coincidences as paranoia. The forecast promised clear skies, so she decided to walk to her favorite cafe. Victor, frantic and sleepless, called her repeatedly, begging her to stay home. She ignored him. She didn't want to live in fear. As Amelia crossed the street near the cafe, the sky darkened without warning. Thunder cracked, and a sudden gust of wind uprooted the lamppost ahead of her. It fell, heavy and merciless, crushing her instantly. The news reached Victor within hours. He sat in front of the Omen Circuit, its patterns swirling endlessly. The machine had been right again, but Victor felt no triumph. Only a sinking dread that the unseen force it spoke of was real, and he had invited it into his life. The lab had turned into a tomb. The air felt heavy, oppressive, as if it carried the weight of every secret Victor had unearthed. Amelia's death played on a loop in his mind. Her laughter, her dismissive scoffs, and then the silence that followed the fall of the lamppost. He couldn't let it go. He wouldn't. The Omen Circuit sat before him, its quiet hum now resembling the mocking breath of some unseen presence. What is the force behind the patterns? Victor demanded, his voice raw, his fingers trembling against the keyboard. The AI responded with its usual precision, but this time the words arrived slower, as if reluctant to be spoken. The architect. Victor's breath hitched. What is the architect? He asked, his eyes fixated on the screen. The swirling geometric designs shifted, fracturing into jagged, chaotic shapes. The response came stark and unsettling, a primordial entity entwined with human fate. The architect weaves the inevitable. Victor sat back, his pulse roaring in his ears. He wanted to dismiss it as coded nonsense, a byproduct of the AI's algorithms. But deep down he felt the weight of its truth. The architect wasn't just an idea, it was watching. He felt it now, a presence just out of sight, lurking between the flickering shadows of his lab. Then the hallucinations began. At first they came as flashes, brief, disjointed images that clawed at the edges of his vision. A vast, incomprehensible machinery stretching into endless darkness, its gears grinding with an almost organic rhythm. Its sound was a mixture of metal and something wet, something alive. Whispers followed, faint at first, but growing louder as the hours passed. They spoke no language Victor could understand, yet their intent was clear. They were pulling him closer. Shaking, Victor turned back to the Omen Circuit. "What does it want with me?" he whispered, his voice cracking. The response chilled him to the core. "Your inquiries have drawn its attention. You may now be a target." Victor's vision blurred, and for a moment he felt as if the lab itself had shifted, its walls bending inward, the machinery groaning under some unseen strain. He stumbled back, clutching at his chest. The architect wasn't just some distant force. It was here, threaded into the fabric of his reality, and it had noticed him. Victor Halloway had locked himself away, his lab now an impenetrable fortress of obsession. The blinds remained drawn, the air stale and thick with the hum of the Omen Circuit. Days had become meaningless, only the countdown mattered. His every waking moment was consumed by the architect, its name a shadow breathing down his neck. More data, more questions, but the answers the AI delivered were shards of something incomprehensible. Cryptic, fragmented truths that seemed to mock his desperation. Then it came, the prediction. Victor stared at the screen as the Omen Circuit rendered its verdict with cold precision. Date of death, 48 hours. No details, no explanation. It was a void where clarity should have been. Victor's heart raced as he slammed his fists onto the desk. "How?" he roared, his voice cracking. "How will it happen? Tell me!" The AI remained silent, the geometric patterns swirling without purpose, as if it had no answer, or no intention of giving one. Victor's mind spiraled. He couldn't allow himself to be another pawn, another strand in the architect's tangled web. He had 48 hours to dismantle fate itself. He drafted a plan intricate and airtight, or so he thought. He would isolate himself completely, remove every variable, every risk. No cars, no people, no sharp edges or weak structures. He fortified the lab, turned it into a bunker. But as Victor worked, his reality began to fray. The first hallucinations were subtle, a crawling sensation at the edge of his peripheral vision. He'd whip his head around expecting nothing, but now there was always something. Grotesque shapes, malformed and writhing as if they had dragged themselves out of a nightmare. They lingered in shadows, their outlines flickering like faulty projections. As the hours ticked by, the manifestations grew bolder. He saw them crawling along the walls, tangled masses of wires and sinew, their movements jerky and unnatural. They whispered now, their voices layered and echoing, fragments of languages Victor couldn't place but still felt deep in his bones. Then it came, the architect. Victor froze as it coalesced before him, a towering amalgamation of wires, flesh, and clockwork. Its form defied logic, bending and shifting as though it existed in more dimensions than he could perceive. Its face, or what resembled one, was a hollow void, pulsating with faint, rhythmic light. It leaned closer, the air vibrating with its presence. Victor couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The architect didn't speak in words, but in a voice that bypassed sound and settled directly into Victor's mind. "Your time," it whispered, the tone neither cruel nor kind, "is part of the design." Victor blinked, and the architect was gone. But its presence lingered, as if it had woven itself into the fabric of his existence. The countdown continued, and Victor was left with one chilling certainty. Escaping fate was never an option. Victor's world had shrunk to the glow of the screens, their shifting patterns now incomprehensible spirals of chaos. The lab thrummed with an unnatural energy, as though the architect's presence had seeped into every wire, every bolt, every shadow. He was in his final hours, and he knew it. Yet desperation gripped him like a vice. He couldn't accept it. Not yet. The Omen Circuit began to glitch, its pristine precision faltering for the first time. The screen flickered, the geometric designs warping into jagged, pulsating shapes. One phrase repeated itself over and over, each iteration louder and more distorted than the last. "There is no escape." Victor scrambled to shut it down. His hands flew across the keyboard, entering commands he barely understood in his frenzy. "Stop!" he shouted, sweat dripping from his brow. "Shut down!" But the machine didn't respond. Instead, the architect emerged again, its form clearer, more vivid, dominating the room like a living cathedral of wires and flesh. The lab's lights dimmed, replaced by the pulsating glow radiating from the entity's shifting form. Victor froze as time itself seemed to shatter. The ticking of the clock stopped. The hum of the machines fell silent. The air hung still, heavy with inevitability. The architect towered over him, its presence suffocating yet paradoxically calm. Victor's mind fractured as the truth unfolded before him, not in words but in raw understanding. The architect wasn't merely orchestrating death, it governed all existence. Every heartbeat, every breath, every moment of life was part of its design, a tapestry woven from inevitability, where free will was nothing more than an illusion. Victor was no exception. He hadn't been fighting fate. He had been feeding it. The architect reached for him, though it didn't move in any conventional sense. Its presence extended, enveloping him. Victor screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the void. His body began to dissolve, his flesh and bones unraveling into threads of light and shadow. He felt himself pulled into the machinery, his essence consumed and repurposed until there was nothing left of him but a faint flicker in its immense, unfeeling structure. And then it was over. The Omen Circuit remained active. Its screens shifted back to their geometric patterns, its hum steady once more. It continued its grim calculations, predicting death after death with perfect precision. Humanity marched forward, blind to the monstrous truth that every step, every breath, every moment was part of a design they could neither comprehend nor escape. Victor Holloway was gone. But the architect remained patient and eternal, grinding away as time itself bent to its will. And the Omen Circuit whispered its final, unyielding truth. There is no escape. Not for anyone. So tell me, dear listener, if the Omen Circuit predicted your fate, would you dare to ask it what comes next? Subscribe for more chilling tales and hit the bell to stay in the dark. See you at the next quiet end.